Mercury conjunct Mars in Synastry. This is my astrology Synastry series. There appears to be a mirroring of each other with this shared synastry, and that's what is most infuriating to the Mars person in particular. The Mars person acts how the Mercury person thinks, and the frustration comes in for the Mars person because usually our Mars energy isn't easily seen by us. Mars is like an extension of our ego, and like the ego, we do not see how we come off to others. And when we are made aware of it, especially if it's negative, we go into a state of denial and try to justify our actions. Therefore, the Mercury person is a bit triggering for the Mars person, even in a conjunction. It's interesting because the Mercury person comes off elusive or misunderstood. You may initially not understand the Mercury person because you are in a state of denial. You may act like you don't know what the Mercury person is thinking or why they do what they do, but in reality, you do know. Whereas the Mars person is seen so without getting confusing, the Mercury person is the mastermind of this conjunction and able to manipulate or control the dynamics, including the actions of the Mars person, and this becomes annoying and frustrating. Example, let's say Mercury and Mars are conjunct in Taurus. The Mercury person would then be so slow to communicate, come off unbothered or surface level, and cautious of change. The Mars person acts slow in matters that require change in their everyday life. The Mars person appears basic and surface level and only has energy for things that are simple and may even be lazy. However, the Mars person will usually want more from the Mercury person because Mars needs action and energy, but the Mercury person doesn't move at the speed the Mars person wants. But the Mars person separately doesn't move quickly either. I hope I'm not being confusing because the synastry can be confusing because the Mars person in this example in Taurus is slow but cannot stand the Mercury person responding slow. It's like the Mars person wants what they want, like the ego, on their time, but the Mercury person thinks the same way. The Mercury person will communicate how and when they want to. You see, if the Mars person has evolved or matured, they will understand the Mercury person even though it frustrates them. Okay, and this frustration is the mirror that the Mars person doesn't want or hasn't been able to see in themselves with how they act in everyday life. For the sake of the example, Taurus energy is also stubborn and set in their ways. Therefore, the Mercury person thinks this way. It will take a lot of energy for the Mars person to change the mind of a Mercury person, but because the Mars person acts the same way the Mercury person thinks, the Mars person won't give the energy. The ego is major here, and it's annoying and confusing. It's like the Mars person is challenging themselves, dealing with the Mercury person. The mind is the most powerful tool. And despite Mars being strong and powerful, the Mercury person has the power of the mind that controls our actions, i.e., the Mars person. I do not like talking about myself, especially in my interpretations. However, I had this synastry with a man, and he frustrated me so much that I had to disconnect from him. The way he thinks is exactly how I acted, and he made me look at myself and realize how I may come off towards others. My ego, Mars, wanted him to move on my time, change for me, commit and be comfortable around me, but instead, I'm met with resistance, and in reality, I'm constantly resisting others and moving at my speed, not theirs. Never theirs. And so he does the same thing. I like simple actions. I dress simple and just want a simple life. And he thought the same way and communicated in a simple manner. And this made me mad. I couldn't take it. But my ego, my Mars, will not allow me to chase, even though I want him to. But his mind, Mercury, won't allow him to chase either. The mind has the power to bend and or strengthen your will. And personally, I felt like I would have had to bend to his mind, Mercury. Things that would have been done on his terms, and my Mars can't accept that. It's funny because he claimed I was submissive and I am not, and have always heard the opposite. But because his Mercury is conjunct my Mars, I became submissive naturally. I wanted what I wanted, but my Mars bended to his mind. I'm still frustrated with him to this day because we aren't talking, because I would have to be the initiator as the Mars person, and my pride won't let me do that. And when I do, I get mad. I can't change his mind, his communication style, his thoughts, his beliefs, and I refuse to change my actions or bend to his mind. So we had a short-term connection even though our conjunctions are both in earth signs. As we know, earth signs are more commitment oriented, so it makes me mad, okay? I can't get what I want, but my pride won't allow me to bow down. He is in control and that kills me. Not all conjunctions are great in synastry because it comes to a point of power struggles. Which planet has more power? Mercury in this case will always have more power than Mars because Mercury controls our Mars. Mercury controls everything. It's mind over matter. The Mercury person in this synastry can make even the strongest or most stubborn Mars placement bow the fuck down, especially in a conjunction, and Mars refuses. Mars rather die, i.e. end things completely, than to be controlled or in bondage because there's no escaping the Mercury person. Think about it like this. Imagine being the Mars person and you are an army general. As an army general, you know that it's either kill or be killed. Or you know as an army general that you cannot let go of hostages because they may come back and kill you. So imagine being an army general and the tables turned. You find yourself as someone else's hostage. You already know they think the way you do and will act it out. You know that they have to kill you because what if they let you loose and you come back to kill them? So again, imagine being in that situation. You understand what your captors have to do with you. You know they have to kill you or keep you locked up. They can't let you go. This is frustrating because it's like living by the sword and dying by the sword. The Mars person takes orders from the Mercury person, just like when we think a thought and act it out. I think I want to go to the gym, and then you start physically getting prepared to go to the gym. You think you're mad, and so you start physically acting mad. I cannot emphasize enough how powerful the Mercury person is in this synastry. What also makes matters worse is how attracted sexually the Mars person is for the Mercury person. It's mutual, but the Mars person feels it more or shows it more. The Mars person wants so badly to dominate the Mercury person and really likes, even loves how the Mercury person acts. So there is a sapiosexual energy present despite the signs this conjunction is in. The Mars person is turned on because they love how the Mercury person thinks, and they want to be the one to dominate, and be the only one to change or bend the mind of the Mercury person. So the challenge turns the Mars person on. As for the Mercury person, they are turned on by the Mars person because they are able to control the Mars person. It's sexy having someone be submissive. Like, let's be real. Now, the Mercury person loves how the Mars person may dominate in other areas of life, but when it comes to them, they are in control. The Mercury person has to remain in control, and this is where mind games come into play. And those games, turns things toxic. Okay. All right. It's a toxic dynamic because there is a controlling, submissive, dominant, and bow down energy very present. The Mercury person has the power to make the Mars person act a damn fool for them. The Mars person will combust in more ways than one over the Mercury person while getting mad that it's never enough to make the Mercury person surrender. It's very frustrating but sexy at the same time. I believe this synastry aspect overpowers any other positive aspects you may share with this person because, again, the mind is the most powerful tool and Mercury is the most powerful planet. It controls all. Without communication and thought, we are nothing. Our bodies respond to the signals our mind sends off, not the other way around. Think about being in a coma. If your mind is gone, sure, the body is functioning, but it's not moving because the mind didn't tell it to. The Mercury person truly has all the power here, and if you are the Mars person, you will have to accept this fate or die, i.e. end things, okay? The Mercury person cannot be seduced. In fact, they get off on it and will still have the Mars on their knees bowing down. The man I shared the synastry with was the Mercury person, and he loved foreplay, and it drove me crazy, and he thought it was funny. I don't really have a high sex drive, therefore he would come around and entice me, and after a little while of his teasing and foreplay, I would go feral. And then he would deny me, and then I'd be so mad and try to seduce him. But he was able to control his urges. Whatever I wanted as the Mars person, he never gave it. And if he did, it wasn't enough. And it was always on his time, never mine. I went crazy and depleted all my energy trying to get him to bend to my will. For the Mars person, you can't hate the Mercury person because in reality, you'd be admitting to hating yourself. The Mercury person infuriates the Mars person, but it's mainly a reflection of how others view you as the Mars person. You frustrate others and may not have been aware, or maybe you have and didn't care until now. Until the Mercury person came in and showed you that you cannot and will not always have your way or win. If you're wondering if this is a compatible synastry or if it'll work, It depends on you as the Mars person. Can you as the Mars person handle or accept being submissive and always being the initiator? As a woman and being the Mars person in my case, I cannot. I think a man should be the initiator and show more desire and chase for women. My pride and ego cannot accept that I'd have to be the one bowing down and chasing. So it depends on you. The Mercury person is attracted and wants the Mars person, but they are in control and can't lose control. Think of it like this. When our minds lose control, what happens? Usually people get medicated, put in psych wards, or just go batshit crazy. Our minds have to be in control, otherwise the quality of our health and life go downhill. I suppose trust may be a huge factor in this synastry as well, because the Mercury person is the leader and they can make you act out in such a negative way where you may need to get medicated anyway, or they can lead you in the right way. Some kidnappers are kind to whomever they kidnap, whereas others are cruel. This is a kidnapping slash mental hijacking synastry, okay? The Mercury person changes your entire direction. You may think you act unbothered, but the Mercury person has the power to change that and have you acting crazy. Now, this may be a good thing for the Mars person, especially if you've been setting your ways to your detriment. If the Mercury person has good intentions, they will be able to change how you act for the better. So again, it just depends on who's sharing this synastry, and what's going on with the Mercury person. The Mercury person is definitely pulling all the strings. Okay, so that is my interpretation of Mercury conjunct Mars in synastry.